Jay, good to see you.
No, it's good to see you. Thank you for speaking to us and making this movie, Uppercut.
Yeah.
It is, you know what? I love these type of movies. Even though it could be classified as a sports movie, the the dialogue, the drama that is the inspiration behind of all of this. That's something that a lot of these type of stories should be actually told. But let's hear it from you first. Is where the original idea came from for Uppercut?
The original idea was, as you may know, there was a German original version, which was a festival opener. And that was based actually on a showreel scene. So one of the actors of Leberhaken, the original movie, wanted me to write a showreel scene for him. And so I did it. And these 1.5 pages have been a scene between a desperate, disillusioned boxing coach and a young female protege. And this actor who I did it for and the lady who wanted to play with him were so keen on the story and said, okay, we got to do a movie out of this. And I was going, okay, 1.5 pages. It'll not take 90 minutes, definitely not. And so yeah, that was the inspiration for me with these guys saying this is an interesting story we'd like to play. And so I started going into something like a little tunnel for yeah, to do that. And this is how the Leberhaken script, the original movie script, came about. And then, as you know, these American producers asked me whether, when we celebrated this opening night, whether we could bring this to the United States, and the rest is history.
Now, for you, how challenging is it to retell a story that you already told once? I mean, if you already got the knockout the first time around, why 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 try to strive for another knockout?
Because I was challenged and I loved the challenge. And I thought, okay, I wanted to do something like a transatlantic adventure, an American European thing, which was based on the idea to have a cool front and a cool backstory to bring Louis to the United States. She played the original movie. She was interested in doing that again. And we had the idea to change the character of Elliott, of the boxing coach, to a POC character, which brought us to a lot of more possibilities in, scribbling out and painting out these characters. So there were so many challenges and interesting ideas, with New York City. The original one was in Berlin. So to bring this city vibe into it. And of course, once we had with Michelle Lewitt, with the great casting director who worked with us, and she did, Transformers and all this kind of stuff. And once she said, "Okay," I could imagine Ving Rhames being interested for such a piece, and I was going, "Are you kidding me?" I was just, I was so decent, and I was saying, "Okay, this guy, that will be something like a superstar." And I never ever had the idea that this guy and his management would evaluate do an uppercut with us. But when he said, "Yeah, I'd love to join you guys. I'd love to do the Elliott part," we took it seriously, and then we said, "Okay, it's such a cool idea, and it's such yeah, it is such a path we went through." And so yeah, I was so energized and so happy about that, and there was no doubt in doing it then.
Now, I want to say it's very unusual that you kept the same actress from the German to the American version with Louis. Can you tell us about the decision on settling with Louis on both films? Because usually when they do a transatlantic remakes, it's an entirely new cast.
Yeah.
But you settled with the same main actress.
Yeah, that was the interesting, and I guess also the uniqueness of it, And the decisive thing was that she said, "I love the idea," because this character, of course, morphed into another dimension. So also with the first time Leia, when she was the protege, It was another character. She was an immigrant in New York City, a German second generation immigrant. So new challenge for her. The guy who played with her was an icon. Ving Rhames is such a huge uh, such a huge partner to play with. And then, of course, the idea to do something like this second time layer and bringing her to the place that she's a promoter then. And so she was interested, and she was saying, "Okay, what is so important these days. I'm a little bit experienced in marketing gigs, so I was just saying, okay, once you have also a cool backstory, it's something like a story to tell." And she loved the idea, and I loved the idea. And then the last thing, which is very very of course essential, is that Ving, Rhames, and Louis had such a fantastic chemistry from the first momentum they met, that I was very 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 um, very safe and I was so fascinated from them playing together, and this chemistry, was brought to the set. So decision was right, and it was something, yeah, it was something which is unusual, but a lot of things in this movie are unusual. So it was the right idea to go that way.
So, how do you direct such a veteran icon as Ving in this role?
Um, it was such a huge privilege that he called me after shooting with him. He called me, Torsten, you are an actor's director. So I love that very much. So what I really am interested in preparing the scenes and giving the actors the possibility to dive totally into that. So we shot very long takes, as we did here in Germany also. We shot takes 6, 8, maybe sometimes 10 minutes. We gave these actors the opportunity to improvise. We gave them the possibility to, stay in a script, but make it their own thing, definitely. And what was also so important is that, I worked with a fantastic camera team with DOP Georg Yugurian and those great two camera operators, and they shot everything handheld. And what I said is that cameras have to follow directors and not the other way around. So we found the momentum that the actors, with a long take of 6 minutes, after something like 90 seconds, they totally forgot about the cameras. And this is something which they really appreciated, obviously. And we roll, and we make them comfortable with everything in this place, and with the sweatiness and the gym. So actually, Ving appreciate that very much. He didn't work like this for a long, long time. Of course, with the Mission Impossible stuff, where it's exactly the opposite. And he found it very inspiring and creative to him.
Now, the greatest thing about this film is actually the dialogue, the speeches. Tell us how you handled that, because you mentioned that your actors could improv in with the long takes. Sometimes that could be challenging, and not to mention German to American. Sometimes things could be lost in translation. So how how did you handle all of this?
So for the translation, it was, I began from scratch with the American script. So there was no just translation. So when I began, I very early, very, very early stage, I put in some great script consultants from the US. So I had a POC consultant, I had a woman consultant, I had a New York consultant. So to put all these very, very important elements of the structure into the piece, to be sure that there was now, that there was no trap I went in, and so that was very important to me. So that was safe when the script went out to the casting director, and of course to Ving, first of it. Secondly, when we had that script, Ving was totally into that play, into that storytelling. And there were some things which are very, very important, to be, detailed on the script, like this attitude, habitude, gratitude stuff, or the buddy guy story. So, but there was other things when he, tells about his mom and his relationship and, beating up a woman where he understood the story so so in so detail that he was able to compose something out of his soul. You know what I mean? And so, as a director of such a giant, you have to always have the feeling in in your fingers how far he can go and how far not. And there was always this wonderful talk to Ving in his trailer before we shoot in the morning and before we start shooting in the afternoon. So he asked me, what can I do? Is that okay with you? And we go sometimes yes and sometimes no. But he felt respected in the way he wanted to portray this guy. And I think this is what we experience when we see the movie.
Now, I also want to remind people that this is a drama that's full of dialogue, not exactly a boxing sports movie, but there is still boxing in this film. Can you tell us about handling that scenes of boxing for this movie?
Yeah, we were lucky enough because we had this actor strike and we had to have the waiver in that very summer that a giant of New York stuntsmanship with Manny Severio was on set. So he prepared Jordan for this fighting scene, and that was a very intense momentum for Jordan. And we were, thinking about this very, very intense shoot for 2 days, how we handled that. And the best thing, obviously, was that we said to him before we started those 2 days with money and then shooting it, Jordan, whenever you have any problems with that, we have a stand-in guy for you. You know what I mean? And that was what made him very ambitious, and he didn't want to, this guy was standing ringside for 2 days, but we didn't use him because Jordan definitely wanted to do it by himself. And he did a great job. And Manny Severio, this is something like a choreography, what you always do, what these, master crafts of boxing movies do for weeks and weeks and weeks, like the Creed guys or the Rocky guys, everybody. And we did it in a more, let me say, intense way, in a closer way. That was our plan. And I think that Jordan and the crew, they did a great job. And it was the way that I wanted to handle it because it was not, as you said, the major subject of the movie. It was something like a mirroring of these psychological aspects. And I guess it worked out very well with that.
It certainly did. Well, let me wrap it up with one last thought because your film present showcase the past and the present, and obviously there's an 8-year jump. Any possibilities of filling in that gap of the adventures of Toni between her training and to promoting? Is there a story in between there someday?
It's a very good idea. Yeah, we of course you can structure it in any possible way. So of course there is with that new mechanisms in the industry, you could do let me say a 4 episode miniseries to describe those 8 years. Also the development with Darius, because we of course we want to see in some time. It was the idea for this very movie to keep him mysterious in a way, because I think that it's very interesting. We see it especially with the women seeing the movie, how they imagine this guy. So there's a lot of possibilities, of course, to do those 8 years, to tell the story of these 8 years. So yeah, and it has never done before. So it would be something like the middle part to be something like the sequel to it. So yeah, I have it in mind.
Well said. Well, Torsten, thank you very much for speaking to us about Uppercut. You made a marvelous movie. Everyone needs to check it out. And and you know what? Especially if you love boxing and the dialogue and the inspirational speeches, that's where we should actually watch Uppercut. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, my friend. Take care.